Hi, this is Caroline Stephen. Today, the incredible story of Arnold Van Den Berg continues. Arnold is the CEO and chairman of Century Management in Austin, Texas. He is also a Holocaust survivor. When the war ended and Arnold's parents emigrated to the USA, Arnold's life continued to be far from easy. Academically, he struggled through high school and he became the target of schoolboy fights. He had to learn to build his strength through gymnastics and goal-setting principles, which he later applied to build his investing firm. Arnold didn't receive any formal business training or college education. He taught himself to invest, and he went on to build himself a phenomenal record as a money manager for nearly half a century. Today, Arnold shares how he did it through understanding the power of the subconscious mind. This is Arnold's passion to speak about. Arnold overcame a life of extreme adversity to create a life of abundance in every way. But Arnold refers to the subconscious as the ultimate treasure and currency. Arnold hopes that in sharing his story, he can help you in your life. Here he is. Well, so let me throw you this question. We're back to America, 1949. Your parents emigrated. You grew up in LA in a low-income neighborhood. You went to school. What was it like for you?
Well, it was not very pleasant. First of all, when I went to grammar school, my mom dressed me up. She thought she was doing us a favor. Since we're in America, she was going to dress us really good because she figured all the kids in America would be dressed up. So she had me in the short pants with the long socks and the suit coat with a tie, you know, the Lederhosen. And I was just a laughing stock at a school. And my brother and I, unfortunately, my brother was a pretty strong kid, because he worked on a farm, unlike myself. So when kids started badgering us, we got into 3 fights the first day, and he took care of all the 3 kids. I didn't do anything. And so the next day we pleaded my mom to buy us some Levi's, and she was just so upset that she spent all this money to get us looking good, and all they wanted was Levi's. She says, Levi's, these people, she didn't understand. So that was not a good introduction. Then I went through grammar school, got to high school, and we lived in a very tough neighborhood. And in the tough neighborhood, the culture was fighting. So being the skinniest, weakest kid in the school, obviously, I was the prey. I was the target. Everybody wanted to fight me, you know? And I was a little strange at that time anyway. I didn't quite adjust to American culture yet. And so I did everything I could to avoid a fight. I mean, it just scared me to death. So one day we're taking pictures, we're standing in line, and the people had the photographer told us to move over. So everybody moved over, and I bumped into this kid. He was one of the thugs in school. And I bumped into him and I apologized. Hey, I'm sorry. They pushed me, you know, and he goes, you know, we're going to fight today in the bicycle yard. And I thought, oh my God, I was just scared to death. So anyway, the first day I chickened out. I figured maybe he'd forget about it or he wouldn't want to bother anymore. Figured I was a chicken and moved on. But he saw me again the next day. Hey, I waited for you in the bicycle yard. Where were you? So I thought, I couldn't live with myself chickening out of the fight. So I thought, I'm just going to have to do it. Well, I didn't tell any of my friends because I knew I was going to get the hell beat out of me and there was just no way out of it. So as I was climbing the fence, it was like a guy going to, I couldn't have been any more scared if I was going to face a firing squad. He's standing there with all of his buddies. He hit me. I went down, he got on top of me and he just beat the hell out of me. And the only reason he quit hitting is because he got tired. And they were all laughing and joking about it. I'm laying there all bloody. And so they leave. So I sneak in the back of the house, of our house, because I didn't want my mom to see me, because there was blood all over me. And the way I felt, I thought I was just mangled. So I get into the bathroom, get some water, wash the blood off my face, comb my hair, and I'm slowly moving up the mirror because I didn't want to look at myself the way it felt. It looked like my whole face was mashed. And I was shocked. First my forehead only had a little scratch here. And I thought, geez, so far so good. I moved up my eyes. They weren't black. I felt that I got hit in the eyes. And then I felt my nose and it felt horrible, but it wasn't broken. And then I felt my ribs and they hurt, but I could move. And I thought, my God, is this what I've been afraid of, terrified of? This isn't all that bad. After a while, when a guy hits you, you kind of go into shock and you don't even feel it. I felt it the next day, though. So I thought, God, just think if I would have hit back. I would have hit him a few times. He probably wouldn't have hit me as hard. So I thought, okay, that's what I got to do. Carolyn, all the fear I had was gone. It was like an epiphany. I was no longer afraid of it because I had faced it. There's another lesson. You face your fears, no matter how bad they are. They're always worse in your imagination because we have the ability to imagine things that you can't even believe. So I realized that my fears is the thing that crippled me during the fight. So I got together with my buddies and we started, fighting and practicing and so forth. And then at the same time, I was trying to get rid of all of my problems with my size and my strength. I started climbing ropes. There was an event in Los Angeles. Matter of fact, it used to be an event in the Olympics where they have a race up a rope. It's, those big ropes hanging down in the gym. Well, you would start from a sitting position and you would climb up 20 feet. They time you and whoever went the fastest wins. Well, I started climbing that because my brother was good at it because he was strong. He got me into the gym and I went up to the coach and I said, I'd like to become a gymnast. And he kind of looked at me and thought I could tell what he thought. And he said, well, Arnold, I tell you what, we'll start you on the rope. And when you get stronger, we'll move you to the other event. Well, 2 years later, I was still climbing the rope. I wasn't strong enough for the other event. So anyway, I kept climbing the rope and I was getting stronger. So as I was getting stronger and I was thinking about the fighting and all this stuff, I thought to myself, the next time I get in a fight, I'm just not going to lay down. Well, it didn't take too long to get into another fight. So here I was all excited. I wasn't scared. I was really ready for the fight. I had prepared for it. I got in there and we got in the stand after the gym. And one thing that I hadn't learned that I learned from that fight is that you just don't stand there and wait for the guy to hit you. This is a street fight, You try to get the first punch in, which he did because he was experienced. He hit me on the side of the face and went down. He came across and hit me 3 times before I even knew what was going on. And now my knees are buckling. I'm getting tired and I could hardly breathe. And out of desperation, I grab onto him and I said to myself, here I am about ready to go down and I haven't even thrown a punch. I got to get at least some punches in. So I grabbed him so tight, I squeezed him and I heard him go, and I thought, oh my God, if I could squeeze him that way and I'm like this and I lean forward, I could land on top of him. Well, it worked out even better than I thought. I took a breath and I squeezed as hard. I heard him go. I leaned forward. I fell on him. And in the meantime, he was facing me. He fell face down. So now I've got him on the ground on the asphalt. His face is on the asphalt. And I'm hitting him on the back of the face, in the back of the head. And every time I hit him, his face scraped on the asphalt. Well, I didn't even realize the damage I was doing to him because I thought I got to put this guy out because if he gets up, he could beat me, So anyway, he finally got up and I looked at him. It stunned me because he was blood all over. His face was all scraped. He looked like I felt after the last fight, you know what I mean? Because the guy didn't have me on the asphalt. So anyway, I looked at him and I thought, all right, I'm going to finish this guy. So I was going to put him up against the wall. There was a wall behind there. And as I was going to put him up against the wall, he said, I give. And that was it. So now I had overcome my fear. That was the first lesson. The second lesson is hit first. Don't hesitate. Go for it. And if you do that, you know, you hit a guy, get a free shot, you come up against him and you come across and you get 3 free shots. 50% of the fights are ended with the first few shots. So it developed the theory that no matter where I was, if it looked like it was going to go in the fight, whether it was in the classroom, in the hall, anywhere, I developed a reputation that I hit first. No matter what it was, I hit first. And I hit guys in the classroom, in the hallway. And, you know, eventually you get a reputation that if you want to fight, you're going to get hurt. You know what I mean? And long story short, I was going to a reunion after 20 years and I'm walking in with my wife and my buddies from the old neighborhood. And the guy, the elevator opens up and there's a guy says, hey, you look familiar. What's your name? I said, Arnold Van Den Berg. He says, you're the guy that hit me in Macmillan's class. And I just looked at him and I said, oh, I knew who it was. I said, hey, how you doing? You know, we shook hands. It was 20 years later. And so my wife said to me, what was that about? I said, well, we got into an argument. We're sitting there studying for the class and I knew it was going to get to a fight. So I figured I'm going to get him first. And I knocked him off his chair and the chair even fell. And he came at me like a windmill. I stepped aside and hit him and he went into a table and then the table caved over. And all of a sudden everybody looks. And the teacher didn't know what to do, you know. Finally, he says, you guys sit down. We sat down. He took us to the principal. But anyway.
So Arnie, you're at school and you're fighting, you're throwing the first punch, you're getting a reputation. Yeah. You say that academically, you were a disaster. You say that
it was worse than a disaster. What happened is I started climbing the ropes and my dream was to become a good rope climber. And so all my focus was on the rope. That's all I cared about. And I climbed for 2 years and there was a guy that challenged me and I thought I could beat him because I'd been working out for 2 years and he'd never climbed before, but he was a bodybuilder. He was very strong and he beat me so bad. I was halfway up. He was already up there and everybody was there. I thought I was going to cry, but I went home and a thought flashed in my mind that said, why would you quit? Even though you can't be competitive, you're getting a lot stronger. And I said, that's right. Even if I can't compete, I'm going to keep working out because it was getting me strong. It really doing. So I finally, the next year I made the team. And the only reason I made the team is there's 5 guys on the team and they only had 4 guys going out. So I got the 5th place. But these guys were climbing a 25-foot rope at the time and they were climbing about 6 seconds up a 25-foot rope. And my best time that year was 8.6. So you can see how bad I was. 1/10 of a second is a lot on a 25-foot rope. And here I was 2.5 seconds slower. So it was almost an embarrassment for the team, but the coach kept me on. So after this is a big moment in my life. After the 9th grade, I asked the coach, I'm doing everything I can. What is it? Is there anything else I could be doing to get better? And he said, you know, it's funny that you mention it because there's a new style climb in rope climb where it isn't just pure strength, it's technique. And it's the way you place your arm and you lay back instead of reaching forward, you need a different set of muscles and you kick your legs up. And it's part technique as opposed to just strength. And if you learn that technique, the guys that do it are so much better. So I thought, great, where do I learn it? He says, well, I don't know it. It's just brand new. But there's a guy at the Venice Beach High School that's climbing that way. And if you watch him in the championship, you come back and figure out then I can help you figure out how to exercise that routine. So I got all excited, took the bus down there, got there 2 hours beforehand, and I'm waiting. And finally I got the front row seat and the guy doesn't show up. And I am so disappointed. So as I'm sitting there, almost in a different state of mind, he comes in, he's pulling up his pants chair, sits down and shoots up the 25-foot rope in 4.6 seconds. And I was just in awe. I was mesmerized. And without thinking, I said to myself, that's going to be me. I'm going to become a champion. And on the way home from the bus, I'm already moving my hips and people are looking at me and I think, oh, well, I got to remember this. But what happened is I would wake up in the middle of the night at 3:30 because I didn't have a camera and I didn't have a video. So I had no way to film this. So I had to remember it. And I was afraid I was going to forget it. So I'd get up in front of the mirror every night and I would be practicing it. And then when I did it for about a half hour, I said, okay, I remember, I can go to sleep. Well, one day I woke up, I felt like Superman. I felt I could conquer the world. It was just a state of mind. So I told the coach, I struggled through the classes. I said, Coach, you got to time me. I just feel good today. I think I'm going to break my time. He said, good, warm up and we'll do it. So I sat down. The minute I grabbed the rope, it felt different. I sat down and it used to have to, when you're sitting down, pull real hard to get up. I pulled down and I just shot up and I thought, oh my God. And I started moving up. Well, it used to be where I have to reach and go like this to touch it. I could touch it with my elbow. So I knew it was a great climb. So I'm hanging out there by, Coach, what's the time? He goes, come on down. So what's the matter? He says, Arnie, this is so good. I thought there was something wrong with my watch. I said, there's nothing wrong with your watch. I'm going to do it again. I did it 10 times in a row. So I said to myself, I'm going to be the next league champion. So I said, Coach, you know what? I have a feeling I'm going to be the next league champion. He said, Arnold, this is a good deal, but there's 5 guys in every school, and there's a lot of schools in the league. And so this is a great climb and you've done good, but it's a long way to go. And I was a little embarrassed. And I said, you're right, Coach. I walked away and I said, bullshit, I'm going to do it. And that year, the next year, I started off being first man. Every person I met, I beat them, even though they were a little ahead of me. And I had beat everybody in the league except one guy, but he was so much better than me that people didn't think I had a chance. I was climbing 4.6 on a 20-foot rope. He was climbing 4.3, and a tenth of a second is a lot.
Yeah.
So people said, how are you going to beat this guy? I said, I don't know how I'm going to beat him, but I have the feeling that I am. And that's all I can tell you. I'm going to do it. I knew it. I just knew it. So I walk into the gym. He's sitting there almost bored because I was his closest competitor and the other guys weren't even near me. So he was last and I was before him. So everybody climbs. Now it's my turn. I sit down and I got that feeling and I thought, oh, this is going to be great. I took off and I hit 4.3 this time. So from 4.6 to 4.3.
Very good.
And everybody was stunned, and he was stunned particularly. So he got himself together and he went up, but we traded places. His best that day was 4.6, mine was 4.3. I beat him with his time. So then we had the league finals and we tied for first, but I made the first place. And then every year after that, I won the league without any problem. I broke the school record, I broke the league record, and I placed 9th in the nation among all college students. There was a national AAU meet. I placed 9th, and these were college seniors, and I was a high school senior. And I still placed among the top 10 in the country. So when I told the story to my psychiatrist, he said, oh my God, he was so excited about it. I said, what's so excited about that? He said, you used your subconscious mind and you did every principle we teach in psychology. You visualized yourself, you believed you were going to do it, you visualized it, you did affirmations, and you finally believed and you became who you visualized. He said, now here's the secret. If you do the same thing with your business, same thing's going to happen. And as soon as he said that, I got chills on my right arm because I can tell truth when something really excites me in truth, I get chills on my right arm. So I said, you know what? You're right. I went home. I lived in a studio apartment. I took everything off the wall. I put all my investment books, my charts and everything in. I put my desk in the middle of the room. It was a studio, so it didn't even have a bedroom. That was my front room. That was my office. People come in and say, what's going on here? And I said, well, this is my office. And I made up my mind that I was going to start the business at that time. And I started with no money, no clients, no formal education, but I had been selling mutual funds at the time during the worst bear market since the Depression. And I went through it from the very peak all the way down. But I was studying the market while I was doing that and getting clobbered in these mutual funds. And about 3 months before the bottom, I said to myself, I'd studied Benjamin Graham, these stocks are so cheap that either the world's going to end or we're going to make a lot of money. And so I started my business 3 months before the bottom. And there were stocks selling at 4 to 5, 6 times earnings with 7% dividend yields, 2 or 3 times cash flow. It was just like you couldn't miss. And we've had our ups and downs like everybody else, but you learn to do it. And recently, we got into the energy market very early. We got hurt pretty badly for the first couple of years, but now we are very heavy into the oil and gas stocks, and you know what's happening to them. And so everything is really coming back. And I told my son, these stocks are so cheap that I've only seen them once in my 50-year career, and that was in '74. We were buying oil companies, smaller companies, at 2 to 3 times cash flow. They usually sell at 6, 7, even 8 times cash flow, just as a metric. That's not the only metric you use, but just to give you a simple idea. It depends on their reserves and the land they own and the balance sheet and all that. But a simple rule that I always have is if you can show me a stock at 2 or 3, 2.5 to 3 times cash flow, if it's got a good balance sheet and it looks like it's going to survive, you don't need to know anything else because you can just close your eyes. If you buy 8 or 10 of them, you can't miss. And so whenever I see an industry that depressed, I don't care what they say about it, one way or another, you're going to make money at it because if nothing else, these companies are going to be bought out by other companies. And that's what's happening. A lot of them are being bought out because they're so cheap. So I'm a big believer in contrary theory. When everybody thinks alike, nobody's thinking very much. And so you go against the tide. And of course, there's a lot of lessons that we could talk about, and I don't want to take too much of your time, but that's the way it got started. And by the way, I had this vision that I was going to start the business and make it successful. And I was telling one of my earlier clients, a mutual fund client, what I was going to do. He said, Arnie, where's your office going to be? I said, I can't hardly afford my rent of my apartment. I can't afford an office. He says, oh, you got to have an office. You can't do business without an office. I said, I'm going to have to. He said, come on, well, let's go back to his name is Bob Phillips. And he went to the office. I want you to figure out how much it's going to cost you to start your office because I'm going to lend it to you. And he made me a $2,500 loan, which in today's dollars is about $17,000. And I went out, called a friend of mine who wanted to start an accounting practice. We split the rent. We rented an office, and that's how we got started. So once you put it, so my wife was doing my checkbook. She was doing my checkbook. She was doing my letters, everything. One night we're sitting there doing the books, and she had tears in her eyes. And I said, what's the matter? And she said, I see you working day and night, and every month we're getting more in debt. And I would like to get a job and help you until you get the business going. I said, no. I just got through with a shrink, and it taught me how important the kids need their mother and a father at home and to teach the right things. And I don't want to go to a nursery school. So I believe we're going to make it. You stay with the kids. I'm going to stay with the business. and I guarantee you the business is going to be successful. Now, I was only grossing 56,000 or 8,000, which is today's 56,000, but I was $120,000 in debt in relative, it was 20,000, but in today's dollars, it's 140. The gross was only 8,000, but in today it's 56,000. So your 56,000 is your gross and 120,000 in debt, you're in trouble. So I said, give me one of your checks. What do you want to check for? I said, just give me one. So I gave her, wrote it out, and I wrote $250,000 for something you may like. I said, that's like writing her a check for $1.5 million in today's dollars. I said, don't spend it this week, but one of these days you'll be able to cash it. So we're going down the street, 5 or 6 years ago, and she needed to have some money transferred to her account. And I said, what happened to all the money I wrote you when we were first starting the business? And she smiled and she says, oh, I still have that check. So I have the check, $250,000. And of course, now we don't have any problem cashing it, But the point I'm making is if you have the belief, and this is what you learn from the subconscious, okay? Here's the way it works. Everybody falls into this category. The first impression is by your parents, what they teach you, whether it's right or wrong, by your environment, by your relatives, by the school you go to, and the culture you come from. That gets into your subconscious mind, whether it's true or not. You get to believing that, and that becomes the way your life unfolds. And there are people going through great things and bad things, and it has nothing to do with them. It's what their beliefs were. Now, once you create the programming, you create belief. And what we are finding out, there's a book called The Biology of Belief, that belief is the single most important thing in influencing the subconscious mind. Whether it's a lie or whether it's true, you believe it and you act accordingly. Now, from that belief, you create attitudes. From that attitudes, you create feelings. Feelings are the second most important thing that influence the subconscious mind. From your feelings, you create expectation. And from your expectation, you create physical action, and that creates results. So it's programming, belief, attitudes, feeling, expectation, and results. And whatever you visualize, and what I want to tell your audience, I don't care what it is, if you repeat it enough and you believe it, you will achieve it. And one of my great, a person that I have a lot of faith with, who was very knowledgeable in hypnosis, was Edgar Casey, and he summed it up this way. What you can conceive and what you can believe is what you achieve. And this is what happened to me in the rope climb. This is what happened to me in business. And this is what happens to me in every goal. And the other goal, since I didn't have a family because I lost 39 members of our immediate family, I always wanted a family. So even after a painful divorce, my wife and I are going to celebrate our 50th wedding anniversary in April. And I have 3 children, 7 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. Oh. So I have achieved that goal as well. Life has been good to me, and all of the lessons I truly appreciate. And the greatest joy I have is sharing them with people, because those concepts can change people's lives, and they have.
So that's true wealth for you, Arnold?
Huh?
That's true wealth for you?
True wealth is what you contribute in life. Money has a diminishing return. I don't want to minimize making money, that it isn't important as a money manager. But after you accumulate money, you realize you can only drive one car, you can only live in one home, the money, but that doesn't bring me as much treasure and happiness and joy as when I know that I've shared a principle that somebody says, geez, that made a difference. That is the ultimate currency. But but I don't want to minimize the money. You need to get the money to live a life for your family. That's first, but there's a diminishing return. After that, it's what you create, what you give. And giving is being lovable, right? I mean, that's what makes people. My wife worked with abused children for 20 years as a volunteer. And she used to come home just feeling so good. I would go to her program and watch those kids just loved her. She couldn't have, there's nothing you could have given her that made her more happy. Matter of fact, she doesn't even care about how much money we have. She only uses how much money we have as to what she can give away. Her joy. And she had a very difficult childhood herself. So we got along very well in that respect. That's another story, but she's a fabulous woman, and she truly lives love. Anybody who meets her will tell you that. And she's got an abundance of forgiveness because she puts up with me. So you need forgiveness for that. But anyway, that's the ultimate goal, is to be able to know that you influence. And you could lose your money, and no matter who it is, they could lose their money, but you could never lose what you did for other people. That stays with you forever. And that's the real wealth. Don't you agree?
Arnold Van Den Berg, I think you have touched on absolutely everything I wanted to touch on with you.
Well, that's news to me, good news to me. I know we spent a lot of time talking about these things, but I wanted to make sure we covered them all. I didn't know whether we'd have enough time, but as long as you made the time, it's my pleasure.
Arnold Van Den Berg, thank you so much for your time from Austin, Texas.
My pleasure, Carolyn. Bye-bye.